My name is Colin Thomas, and I'm also here from the University of Notre Dame. And this is about some ongoing work, very relevant to what we were just discussing, interactions between Parsl, essentially, as the DAG manager, and the executor, when it is TaskVine in this case. So I want to go back to a type of data that we can manage in TaskVine called temporary files. And that's intermediate data in your workflow. So if we have this graph here that's describing some application that we're running, the intermediate data is those items that are produced by tasks, consumed by subsequent tasks, and as was described, TaskVine will keep those out in the cluster on the local storage of the nodes. They don't need to get written back to the shared file system. The implementation for including these types of data dependencies in Parsl using the TaskVine executor is shaping up it with declaring a temporary file in Parsl using the TaskVine executor would look a little bit like this, where you have a specific URL called TaskVine temp that you declare your file with. But in all other ways, you would handle this data object just like you would describing any other dependency in a Parsl application. So when we think about temporary files and what kinds of things we could use them to our advantage for, one situation could be in a series of sequential tasks like this. If we have one sequence of these, or maybe we have hundreds of these sequences in a task making a large graph, in a workflow making your entire workflow, what is the best way that we can schedule this series of tasks? Well, there's no parallel opportunity here. Let's say that the tasks have similar hardware requirements. It would be rational to think the best way we could run this series of tasks would be on the same node, such that using the intermediate data, it doesn't leave the worker at all in the sequence. Well, if you have thousands of tasks, if you have a whole bunch of these sequences and you have hundreds of workers out there that you're managing and you are the scheduler, it's not very easy if you're looking piecewise at each individual task, trying to schedule it and match it and say, these are the data dependencies. Where's a worker out there that already has this data in place? It becomes a very complex operation, one that will, the cost of which will outweigh any benefit that you would get from data locality in a really large application. So what we need to do is to look ahead into the application, see what kind of tasks are yet to come, and make these associations between tasks beforehand. So if we're thinking about using Parsl with TaskVine, there are a few challenges in addition, and that is what was just described, how the normal relationship between the Parsl DFK and the executor is it gives only tasks that are ready to run to the executor. And that's a problem here if we want to look ahead into the application. So on the top, the Parsl is handing ready to run tasks to TaskVine, and it has no insight about what is to come. And so it can put ready tasks out there on the workers, but what we really want to do is have TaskVine get more than what is necessarily ready to run at the moment. And to implement this was actually Ben's idea. He suggested to me was to put together a data staging provider specifically that will fool the Parsl DFK into thinking intermediate dependencies have been fulfilled. And so Parsl will happily send more tasks to TaskVine, even though they're not necessarily ready to run. But TaskVine will have those in its own queue that are that it can now make these associations of sequences. And yeah, I think the closed captioning is blocking the class name, but that's okay. So I implemented these things and I put together a little benchmark application just to see if this was a worthwhile endeavor. And this benchmark application produces batches of sequentially dependent tasks. Each task produces a data file, and on the intermediate task, produce and consume a data file of a fixed size. which can vary, and the length of the sequences can vary. And both of these graphs show runs of this benchmark application with different configurations. On the left hand, we have 20 sequences of 30 tasks each. So 20 times 30 total tasks. And we're changing the size of the intermediate data between each task. And so in the small data sense, the high throughput executor, which is shown in green, and then using TaskVine temporary files without this sequential association, and then task groups in orange is with these associations. High throughput executor using a shared file system with small intermediate data can easily outperform the other two options because it's not very taxing on a shared file system. But as we grow the size of the data, we can see task groups start to begin to be competitive and then eventually exceed the performance of the high throughput executor. Whereas the normal TaskVine temporary files, because it does not have the benefit of this policy, the scheduling policy, is falling short of both. On the other side, we can see the most profound impact, which is the length of the sequences. In the beginning, sorry for the closed captioning, but the first item there is 10, and well, it looks about the same if you scale it down from the next few items there. The proportions are about the same. And as the sequences get longer and longer, the size of the data that we're creating gets longer, gets larger. The total amount of files that we're writing to the shared file system as the high throughput executor, it gets greater, and we see the most profound impact there. And to give you an idea on the order of data size that's being created, with the last item, 500 megabyte intermediate data, 20 times 30 tasks, that's 600 times 500 megabytes. So 300 gigabytes of data is totally being created. And on the other end, we have 100 sequences of 50 megabytes times 20. And I'm not going to embarrass myself doing simple math in front of you. So you can figure that one out. But taking my time into account, these are some open-ended things that you could read at your leisure. But basically, the idea here is having these sequential task associations, but also what does this suggest about the relationship between the Parsl and its executor in giving tasks when they both have this valuable information, but it's not necessarily being communicated unless we make this kind of modification to the data staging provider. Thank you.